should we do the NFL 100, the running backs?
Let's get mad about a list. Yeah.
All right. So let me throw out there what they ended up with. They had 12 running backs on this list. 12, which is a lot. I think what did we have? What did we do last week? What did we do? What do we do?
Tight ends.
Tight ends was only like 5 or 6. So the running backs they have pre-1970 running backs: Tim Brown, Marion Motley, Steve Van Buren, Lenny Moore, Earl Dutch Clark, and Gale Sayers. So that group, I don't even know what we do with that group. Sure. Jim Brown, obviously number one.
Let's go through it.
Like, whatever. Who cares? I don't know. Gale Sayers. I know Gale Sayers. I know Jim Brown. The other guy's like, okay, I'll take your word for it kind of thing. The 6 more recent, so 1970s on, Earl Campbell, Walter Payton, Barry Sanders, O.J. Simpson, Eric Dickerson, Emmitt Smith. Where do you want to start? Because I actually have –
I'm just going to get started by saying, like, O.J. Simpson, like, I get it, but, I mean, come on. You could have very easily not put O.J. Simpson on this list, and nobody would have been like, hey, what the fuck? Why didn't you put O.J. Simpson on the list?
I agree.
He was a running back of the 70s, though. I know that because I just watched the documentary yesterday.
Okay,
so he was the
guy. He was the guy. It would be incorrect for them not to put him in there.
I agree with you, PFT. I could do without him. I also could do probably without Earl Campbell, and I think Walter Payton, Barry Sanders, Emmitt Smith, and Eric Dickerson are pretty much locks in there. So if we're saying we're going to take Earl Campbell out and O.J. Simpson, and let's just say
I would keep Earl Campbell.
Okay, well, I disagree. I think
okay. Let's get into it.
I think the 3 running backs that they totally missed, and that at least 2 – no, actually, I think all of them are better than Earl Campbell. Adrian Peterson should be in there.
Agreed.
LaDainian Tomlinson should be in there, and Marshall Faulk should be in there.
Okay, those are the 3 that I had on my list as well that you probably could – I also put Frank Gore on that list.
No,
I had Jamal Lewis as well.
Wait. Now, if you're gonna be a Jason Witten guy, you have to be a Frank Gore guy.
Hold on.
Frank Gore is way.
Wait, hold on. I wasn't a Jason Witten guy. I never said Jason Witten should be in the best tight ends. I said he was in my 3rd group or 2nd group, the next group. So he was never in my. I never. No, but remember, I put him after 3 other people. So he wasn't even. I put him after Shannon Sharp. I put him after Ozzie Newsome, and I put him after another person. So Jason Witten was never in my even close to my top tight ends.
He sounded like a Jason Witten stand. So you also could have put Curtis Martin on this list, I thought. Earl Campbell, I think Earl Campbell deserves to be on there.
Hold on. Go back to Frank Gore. And we're going to get to wide receivers. You want Larry Fitzgerald, who's also a compiler of stats. So where do you stand on that?
I just don't like Jason Witten. I've been very clear.
All right. But I never said Jason Witten should be even close to the top 5. I said he was just somewhere close. He was after 3 guys. I had 3 guys that were better than him. What are you doing, Hank?
I think Hank's remembering this conversation a little bit differently.
Oh my God. I had 3 guys that were ahead of Jason Witten. So he was the 9th best tight end.
Okay, of all time, which is so that would I would have Frank Gore as maybe my 9th best running back of all time.
So you would have him above Walter Payton, Barry Sanders, Adrian Peterson, Marshall Faulk, LT, Eric Dickerson, Jim Brown, Gale Sayers, all these other guys they have pre-1970?
I would have him above them. I would have him above Earl Dutch Clark. Okay, so Earl Dutch Clark played from 1931 to 1932 and then like 1936 through 1939. No disrespect to Earl Dutch Clark, but you only get 1 Earl per list. It's a rule that I just made up right now, but I feel like it's a good rule for this NFL 100. And Earl Campbell is the Earl that I'm going to go with because I at least remember – I've seen him play, and he's a great player. He's a great college player, great NFL player. You saw that play where he put his head down and just ran that guy over.
But we can't – in this list, I think we have to, unfortunately, the way they compiled this list, they have 6 guys that are pre-1970. I don't think we can, we have to just go with their pre-1970 list. We have to, if we want to replace current running backs with the current running backs list, we can do that. But I don't think we can touch, because otherwise I just eliminate everyone except Jim Brown and Gale Sayers from the pre-1970. You know what I mean?
I'm fine with that.
No, but I'm saying I don't think we can. I think to make it difficult, we cannot touch the pre-1970s list.
How about this? We should be able to get rid of one of the guys. Out of the group of Earl Dutch Clark, Marion Motley, who the big takeaway about Marion Motley from the people that nominated him they said that offensively he was a blocker as much as he was a runner.
All right, so we get one of them away.
Then you got Marion Motley, and then you have Steve Van Buren, who had a total of 5,800 career rushing yards.
All right, so pre-1970, you get to take away one. I agree with that. Now, give me your list then give me your 7 1970s and on list.
Okay, so in that case, I'm going to go with Earl Campbell, Eric Dickerson, Walter Payton, Barry Sanders, Emmitt Smith, Marshall Faulk. That's 6. How many do I get? One more?
Yeah.
LaDainian Tomlinson. That would be my list if I could get rid of one of them.
Wait, did you say Barry Sanders?
Yeah.
Wait, say it again then. Earl Campbell.
My list. Earl Campbell, Eric Dickerson, Walter Payton, Barry Sanders, Emmitt Smith, Marshall Faulk, LT.
Okay.
So I
don't have Adrian Peterson, and you don't have Adrian Peterson.
Shit. Yeah. Adrian Peterson actually coming. I'm taking Marshall Faulk off, putting AP on.
Okay, so I'll make the case that my list would be Walter Payton, Barry Sanders, Eric Dickerson, Emmitt Smith, Adrian Peterson, Marshall Faulk, and LT. So I was looking through it. If you want to do Earl Campbell, who's like a power running back, Adrian Peterson, and you could make the argument that it's harder to be a runner in like this era of the NFL. Adrian Peterson had 8 years over 1,000 rushing yards, and 1 year he had 970. He played 12 games. He tore his ACL. Earl Campbell had 5 years over 1,300 yards, and if you go their best year to best year, Adrian Peterson, less than 9 months after tearing his ACL, had 2,097 yards, 12 TDs. Earl Campbell had 1,934 yards, 13 TDs. I think Adrian Peterson's a better, longevity-wise as well, better running back than Earl Campbell.
I think so too, but I'm still keeping Earl Campbell on the list. And most of it, admittedly, is because of that cool play where he put his head down, ran the dude over, and then he got his jersey taken off as he was running forward. Because that's just a cool play. That's his Heisman moment for the NFL 100 list.
I think Adrian Peterson should be on it. Peterson should be on it. Marshall Faulk. I was looking through the Marshall Faulk numbers. He had 11 straight years over 1,000 yards from scrimmage, 4 straight over 2,000 yards, and then in his 2000 season, he had 2,189 all-purpose yards, 26 touchdowns. And LT is the biggest travesty to me because going through LT's numbers, it's fucking insane. His peak was so ridiculous. He had 8 seasons in a row with over 1,000 yards, at least 10 TDs. And then he had 100 catches in 2003, so he could do both. And then that 2006 season, I went through the game logs. I don't know, there's probably some people who are listening who probably don't. I don't know how old you'd have to be if you were. Yeah, I mean, if you're like 20, even if you're 25, what year would you be? Hank, what year were you born?
93. I'm 26.
Okay, so if you're like 22, you probably don't fully remember 2006 LaDainian Tomlinson. So from week 8 to week 15, I'm just going to read the stats because they're fucking insane. This is like the old, the Barry Sanders, like go through or Jerry Rice fantasy stats. He had 240 all-purpose yards, 3 touchdowns, 192 all-purpose yards, 3 touchdowns, 158 all-purpose yards, 4 touchdowns, 179 yards, 4 touchdowns, 114 yards, 2 touchdowns, 192 yards, 2 touchdowns, 112 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 204 yards, 2 touchdowns. In 8 weeks, the Chargers went 8-0, and he had 23 total touchdowns.
It's pretty impressive.
That's very fucking insane.
Yeah, LT very clearly should be on this list. And I don't know why they devalued modern running backs because I don't care who you talk to. Adrian Peterson and LaDainian Tomlinson are probably 2 of the top 4 in the history.
Right. And I don't
know why they left him off this list.
I don't understand Adrian Peterson or Earl Campbell over Adrian Peterson when you stack them up, and it's like Adrian Peterson did it for a lot longer. And not to mention, like, Adrian Peterson did lose a year of his career to, the whole off-field issue, which was like still his peak. His peak, he like didn't peak. It's crazy to look at Adrian Peterson and be like, how did this guy do this? Like when he had 1,000 yards last year, right? 2 years ago?
A couple years ago, yeah.
It's crazy. So I think he should be on the list. So that was my biggest bone to pick. Take Earl Campbell, take O.J. Simpson off, and throw those three guys on.
Now, are they putting anybody on this list that is a current NFL Network employee? Because maybe that was a conflict of interest type deal.
For Marshall Faulk?
And for LT. Doesn't LT contribute to them?
Oh, he might be. Yeah. I don't know. I just thought the whole thing, like, I actually got kind of mad looking at all the stats, and I was like, why aren't these guys on this list? This makes no sense to me. There were some no-brainers that, like, Walter Payton, Barry Sanders, Emmitt Smith, like, absolute no-brainers, but when it comes to Adrian Peterson, LT, and Marshall Faulk, it's like, well, this makes no sense. These guys should all be on the list.
Mm-hmm. I agree. So I think in hindsight, we basically agree on everything except for Earl Campbell.
Right. You have Earl Campbell, and I have him out. He only did it.
You had Gale Sayers.
He didn't. I thought you said you took Earl Dutch Clark off.
I did.
Yeah, so you didn't have to take Gale Sayers off.
No, I wanted to send a message.
Gale Sayers was pre-1970.
Yeah, Gale Sayers was a hell of a player.
Yeah, I mean, Gale Sayers was kind of the. If you look, he doesn't have the stats. He was the more like, what if he didn't get hurt, and like, what if he played in modern era and was able to recover from a knee injury.
Yeah, he was like, if you've watched Reggie Bush's highlights in college, that's what Gale Sayers looked like.
Right. He was like the tape pick where it's like the stats might not even come close to all these other guys, but if you watched the tape, you're like, this guy was just something out of control.
He was cool. He was very cool. Also, the more I think about Earl Campbell, I think living in Austin probably is pushing me more towards wanting Earl on this list because the airport there, the bars called Earl Campbell's. And so waiting for my plane, I would have a couple tall, cold Earl Campbells and have some good memories of that place.
I'm not taking anything away from Earl Campbell. He's a hell of a running back. But if you're talking about like the longevity of Adrian Peterson, LT, and Marshall Faulk, I think should count. And Earl Campbell was fantastic, but it was really a 3-year peak, 4-year peak. And, his body kind of betrayed him. So I think that's where I add the other three guys.
I just think it's kind of ridiculous to have somebody with 5,800 career rushing yards on the list of best running backs of all time. And then one guy that was like a better linebacker than he was a running back.
Yeah, the pre-1970s shit. I mean, they're just doing it to be like, no one's going to argue with that because, like, how could we? We don't know. And right. If Belichick says that, like, Belichick probably has watched every single game of Steve Van Buren.
I actually thought that Marion Motley was a guy that Belichick just invented to see if anyone was paying attention because Marion Motley sounds like he's what he wanted Rob Ninkovich to be, like a great linebacker and a serviceable running back.
Yeah, and Belichick definitely could sneak one on and be like, yeah, I used to watch this tape on my refrigerator with my dad, and everyone would be like, okay, sounds good, coach.
Yeah, he's a 4-time AAFC champion. Okay, cool. Yep, sounds good.
Sounds perfect. All right, it's good to get mad about a list. It's like all we have left. I actually get excited to look at these lists and be like, all right, where the fuck am I going to get mad about?